So, you've got an idea for a business, the store of your dreams. There's just one thing to figure out: everything. That's why Shopify's all-in-one commerce platform makes it easy to sell online, in person, and everywhere else. Sell on social media, source products with an app to get that first sale feeling. It's the only solution that gives you everything you need to sell everywhere you want. So when you're ready to bring your idea to life, power it up with Shopify.
Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/listen.
Now for a limited time, the new $1.99 Crispy Tender Wraps are here at Sonic. Who could deny a crispy chicken tender with bold flavors like hickory barbecue and cheesy Baja? And we can't forget the crisp lettuce and melty cheese to make the perfect bite. Wrap yourself up with some TLC, tender, love, and chicken for only $1.99. Sonic $1.99 Crispy Tender Wraps. Tax not included, limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins.
So our podcast is called Right and Wrong.
Are these your notes?
These
Are your notes about what we're going to say?
Anything.
Nailed it.
Is the short answer.
So how many novels did you not finish?
Oh my God, so many.
It was perfect. What's she talking about? This is nonsense.
Ooh, a spicy question. I love it.
This is it, guys. The big secret to getting published is you have to write a good book. You heard it here first. Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. Today I'm joined by the final nominee for this year's RNA Agent of the Year Award, someone who has worked across every angle of publishing before setting up her own literary agency. It's Kate Nash. Hi, Kate. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you. And let's, first of all, congratulations on your nomination for Agent of the Year with the Romantic Novelists Association.
Yeah, thanks very much. It was a huge honour to be nominated, and a great party, and a really good opportunity to kind of champion romantic fiction. So it was a great night.
Yeah, is it the RNA? Is it a group that you've done a lot of work with previously?
Well, I first got involved in publishing through being an author. So I think I joined the Romantic Novelists Association as an aspiring author.
Oh, wow.
I was trying to write a romance for Mills and Boon, which didn't happen. But I did, discover there was this fantastic community of other, as both aspiring authors through the Romantic Novelist New Writers Scheme, which I was a member of. We're going back now 20 years, and then successful authors who are willing to kind of give their time and help and expertise to help potential newbies on the track. So without that, I don't think my sort of things just wouldn't have developed as they had. And I ended up I did get those books published. They weren't romantic enough for Mills and Boon, but they were published by a couple of independent publishers back in the day.
Oh, amazing! That's so nice that your sort of very first experience in publishing was sort of with the RNA, and now it's come full circle, and they're nominating you for what is now, I think, a very prestigious award.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sort of thrilled that, just to have sort of seen the evolution of the RNA from, a very supportive sort of focused writers organisation to really, I think they now have over 1,000 author members. So they've really grown and have kind of, just a lot more, just out there in the kind of wider publishing world and championing romantic fiction, which sadly still needs to be done.
Yes, it does. Even though it's, if you're looking at sales figures, it's absolutely smashing it up with other genres. So it's bizarre that everyone still sees it as looks down upon it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Waterstones are now stocking romantic fiction, although they've renamed it TikTok Made Me Buy This, or whatever they're calling it. But I'm still hopeful that we will get to a world where we have romance sections back in bookshops, which, as I say, if we go back 20 years, I used to love going to Waterstones in Piccadilly. They had a big section on the first floor. A bit like now, you go in and you can kind of, you love science fiction and fantasy or crime or something, you can go in, there's a real sort of dedicated depth section. They used to do that for romantic fiction in these bigger bookshops. We used to have Borders stocking it, and that kind of all went at some point, and kind of hasn't come back. So we're very dependent on supermarkets
Yes.
other retailers. And romance really should be sort of in high street bookshops, right at the start. W.H. Smith has got a romance section, but Waterstones has yet to do that.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that they sort of start creating more of these sections, open up the industry a little bit. Now, I did mention at the start you have a sort of very wide experience of publishing. As you said, you first kind of got into it as an aspiring author, but also you've worked with publishers as a publicist and a marketer. Other than the aspiring author, where did you first get your start, sort of in the professional parts of this industry?
Well, exactly. I was an aspiring author, and I think when I got my first book deal, it was a publisher called Robert Hale, whose head offices were in Clerkenwell, and I was working elsewhere, but not very far away in London, and kind of didn't want to spend sort of £15 or whatever it was then to kind of post this big manuscript to them. I thought, well, I'll just go in my lunch break and drop it in at reception. And what was really noticeable, I think, from the point of view of being I was working in market research and marketing, and I was in FMCG at the time, so it was all sorts of things from like frozen pies to cakes and all sorts of things you get in supermarkets. And I just didn't. There was a sort of disconnect really between the publisher and the author. The author sort of handed their manuscript in, and then you did your edits with your editor. That was fine, but you didn't really. I think I asked them what marketing they were doing for the book, and they sent me some posters, so I could sort of do a signing at my local bookshop. And really, that was about it. I mean, this is the days before ebooks and things, so we didn't have that side of it. But I just couldn't really understand why the publisher wasn't marketing what was essentially a product, since all the marketing I was involved in, everything is being marketed left, right, and centre. So I think that's how I got interested. And then the book didn't. So I think it sort of sold okay. But my second book did better because I was a bit more cute to it. And I thought, well, obviously the publisher's not really doing marketing, so I'm going to do something. So I kind of made sure I sold out my print run and my second print run by going around doing lots of events and things like that. When I left, I suppose I left the kind of PAYE, and I really wanted to set up my own business, and I ended up setting up a business with a friend, doing public relations. And we kind of, just because I was involved in books, I think I got an opportunity to work with, I think it was Essex Book Festival, an author there. That led on to something else. I did some work for a business book publisher, and then that led to some more work. And then somebody was ill, and I ended up running the Young Minds Book Awards, which is a book awards around young people and mental health. So that was quite a big deal because it was a big sort of A-list celebrities. We had to shut Philip Pullman in a room, I remember, because his film The Golden Compass was out then, and he didn't really want the journalists to be asking him about the film when he was there to promote mental health and young people. So as I say, somebody literally was on guard in the dressing room at the theatre. So that was quite a big one. And then it's just one thing leads to another. There's not that many people doing book publicity, so once you get a few gigs, you tend to then go on from there. So that's sort of really how I got involved. And I just thought it was, publishing was really interesting. Obviously, I love novels because I've been reading them all my life. I've been writing them nearly all my life. And I realised that being an agent really was probably the best job in the world. So after we had the 2008, there was a bit of a downturn in the economy. We had quite a few public relations clients who didn't want to spend the same money they were spending last year. They were like, well, we're going to have to cut this, cut that. So I wasn't looking at a particularly healthy sort of income at that point. So we actually decided to wind that business up, and I thought, I might as well just go for it and launch as a literary agent. I mean, nobody's going to give me a job at that point. I know you've interviewed other agents, Claire Coombs, who's also been nominated for by the Romantic Novelists Association this year. I mean, a bit like that. You're coming into this late. You can't go in at the bottom and make the tea for people. You've got to kind of make your own way. So I just sort of went for it and set up a business. Hope for the best.
well, it seems to have worked out, and now you're, the agency is over 10 years old now.
Yeah, I think we're up to, I had my 10th anniversary party. I think just got that in just before COVID, actually. So we'll be up to
Oh,
sort of
great.
14 years this year. So it feels, it feels like a long time. And yet, you feel like, you can still feel like a newbie.
Yeah.
There's always new things. And
yeah, but it's one of those industries where it's just always evolving and there's always something new and you need to adapt and grow. I mean, the industry is still trying to catch up with TikTok and book talk and all of that. So I feel like it's one of those things that will always feel new because there will always be a new thing.
Yes, absolutely, and sort of, as I say, even just in selling rights, things that we were doing a few years ago, are just coming back, and audio continues to grow. So that's been a big focus for us. Weirdly, in the last year, I think Spotify has just now launched audiobooks, so this isn't going to dampen down anytime soon. And we have kind of policies at our agency, like we want to make sure that every author, every book is audiobook. And we'll kind of do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Yeah, and no, definitely audiobooks are absolutely massive now. So 14 years old, presumably when you started the agency it was just you, maybe a small team. You've got a kind of decent team around you now. What are there other agents with you at the agency?
So we've got Justin Nash, who we might be related, who is MD of the business, but also works as a primary agent for he's got his own author list, and we've got. At the moment, we've got, how many people have we got? I think we've got six people at the agency. So, and we've got assistants who are also growing their list at the moment.
Oh, okay, great. So let's talk about the juicy bits, the submission package. You've got assistants. I know you have at least one reader. When a submission comes in, who gets to look at that first?
I think we're a bit different from some agencies. So some agencies ask writers to submit directly to the agent. We actually have a centralised inbox, and really we're trying to make sure that everything is read. So to some degree, and so we do have a freelance reader, Sophie, who'll be diving in every week to read submissions. We also have two assistants in the business at the moment who are both looking at submissions every week, and then we have a kind of weekly meeting where the promising crop from sort of that week's reading is brought forward for the rest of us to have a chat about and see what and see what's promising. So it's normally very, very clear when something comes in, because obviously we're a small team, we know each other extremely well, like who would be the right agent for that material. That's not normally really needs much discussion. So but it is just a case of kind of thinking what's commercial, do things need a lot of work, who's going to be right for reading this and things like that. So we sort of have a weekly submissions meeting, and we tend to discuss about 10, probably about 100 submissions a week coming in, and about 10 of those will come forward to the weekly submissions meeting, which I think is about right. And of that 10, we're highly likely to be requesting full manuscripts from most of those.
Okay, cool. So it's very much a team effort, and then you all come together to sort of share the things that you found and kind of sign off and things like that.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
The submission package itself is cover letter, synopsis, and then the opening chapter, which is a little different from most agencies who will ask for the first 3 chapters. When you're just getting the first chapter, do you put more weight, do you think, on the synopsis?
There's a reason we asked for the first chapter, which is all my fault, really. It's because I'm tending to read a lot of submissions on my phone, and it's too difficult to read sort of Word documents, or certainly on my old phone. I haven't really tried the new one. So when I'm reading submissions, it would be quite often when I'm traveling, and it was just handy. So we do ask if that first chapter can just be pasted into an email, so it can be kind of read on any device by anybody, anywhere.
Oh, gotcha.
So sometimes that first chapter doesn't give you perhaps the information that you would need if you did have 3 chapters. So, but if things are promising, then that obviously we'll request to see more. It's so easy with email. We're not in the kind of olden days of I was talking about having to sort of post actual real printed out manuscripts around the place. We didn't do that anymore. It is the click of an email. So, as I say, if we're sort of reading the first chapter, we're not really clear whether this is the first chapter or is it something that we're reading that really ought to be more of a prologue, or perhaps the story doesn't seem like it's quite started yet from what we can tell from the rest of the synopsis and covering letter, then obviously we can request to read more, and we quite we will do that. We're not going to kind of just sort of cut something down unnecessarily, but as I say, it's purely for our kind of convenience to try and make sure that we are reading as many submissions throughout the week as possible, and that we can kind of use our time like that.
Okay. So
Introducing new dirty drinks from Sonic. Whatever your fave is, you can now make it dirty. Fanta fans can make it dirty. Dr. Pepper devotees can make it dirty. Even ocean water aficionados can make it dirty. You name it, we can make it dirty. Now you may be asking yourself, how do you make a Sonic drink dirty? By infusing it with a delicious blend of coconut flavor, sweet cream, and lime, of course. What were you thinking? Get your brain out of the gutter. New dirty drinks, now at Sonic. Fanta and Dr. Pepper are used under license. Limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins.
what are you looking for in the cover letter to really kind of draw you in?
Well, I don't really look at the cover letter,
Okay.
so I don't really mind what people say in the cover letter. So I really won't look at it. I'm just reading normally just to see what the voice is like and what the writing's like, and if it's grabbing me. So I think this sort of quality of writing, is kind of really important. And then if I like it, then I'll go and look at the cover letter and sort of see what the author's got to say, and then find out a bit more about what the book's about. But that's the way around that I'm doing it, which I fully realise is not necessarily the same as other agents. I've had these discussions before, but I just think it's. I suppose if I'm reading something and I'm just not grabbed by it, then I'm just probably I don't need then the extra information that's in the cover letter. So, but I think for writers, the bad news is that all agents are different. Some are, some will be diving into the writing first, like me. Others will be diving into that cover letter first, and wanting to see that there's a good idea for a story there before going in to do some reading. And everybody's just slightly different. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. So, kind of being aware of that. I think cover letters, just make them snappy. They don't need to be sort of 3 pages long. They should just be a page, and introduce yourself. Say anything relevant, like I go to a writing group on a Tuesday, because that's great. It means that we know you're engaged. And then tell us a bit about the story, and then just get into it, I think.
Yes, and there's an even rarer style of agent where they'll read the synopsis first. So you never know, and it's always. And this is why I always say to everyone listening, if you are planning on submitting, really do research not just the agency or the genre, but the individual agent that you're looking to apply to.
I would say yes. I'd say, unfortunately, our agency, and you're talking to me today, you might talk to somebody else from my team who is going to read the synopsis first. So I think, unfortunately, it's, as I say, if you've got a sort of agency like us where we've got a central inbox, let's get it right. But no, I absolutely, there's only a couple of genres where I really want to engage with the synopsis, just to kind of see what's going on. And those would be things like psychological thrillers, because they're very sort of difficult to sometimes get to grips with. Just based on the story idea, you kind of need to see what the setup is. But most genres, I'm not reading the synopsis deliberately. If I request the manuscript, I will read the manuscript. I will not read the synopsis to kind of give myself too many spoilers, so that I can, I'm very sort of firm believer in wanting to experience the story as a reader would in the first instance, and judge it, whether it stands up. In itself, because I think I have just found over the years that synopses don't always do manuscripts justice.
Yes, yeah. I mean, as a writer, and you a writer as well, you'll know that I think it's very hard for creative people to water down a story which they're obviously very passionate about into these sort of dead lines of exactly what happens. No fancy twirls or frills or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, writers, I think, have got better at writing synopses because there's all sorts of courses. We've got the internet now. There's things online. You can kind of find out how to do it. So I should think the sort of standard of synopses has probably gone up over the years. However, I just don't like spoilers. So I mean, a crime. I mean, my existing authors will tell you. I mean, romance is easy because it's got to be a happy ending at the end of the romance. So frankly, who needs a synopsis for that? It's just about the twists and the kind of romantic development. Crime, I don't want to know what's happening in this story. I just want to read it. So even with my existing authors, I will refuse to look at any synopses until I absolutely have to. I much prefer, if at all possible, to read, read the latest. I've got a brand new crime novel from one of my authors, Faith Martin, just on my Kindle at the moment. I'm desperate to read it. Unfortunately, we've got an open day on Saturday. I hope if she's listening to this podcast, I'll explain to her why I'm taking a couple of weeks to read a novel. But I don't really want to know what it's about or anything. I just want to read it and enjoy it. And then I can, spoiler free.
Yes, the journey is the destination.
Mm-hmm.
So we've touched on a few genres here, but you online on your website, it does say you represent commercial and fiction and non-fiction for adults. So no children's. Do you do YA or is that too young?
I don't personally know, but one of my colleagues, Saskia Leach, does represent YA. So we're definitely open to YA at the agency.
Okay. And in terms of genres, are you open to absolutely anything? Or do you have sort of, it sounds like you lean towards romance and crime, but you did mention some sci-fi sort of stuff.
I think I am in a kind of very commercial mainstream space. And I would say I am your, ITV, BBC One sort of person. I'm aiming at a mass market audience here, and that's what your book needs to be about. So if you've written the new kind of Peaky Blinders or Call the Midwife or whatever in book form, then equally I'm interested in those. Obviously in books, we do have genres, and I think you can distill that down to, well, I do a lot of romance and I do a lot of crime, because those things do fit into one of those, although they're both very, very broad genres, quite honestly, and encompass all sorts of things. So I've got everything from kind of looking at the, next year I've got, real sort of, I've got fantastic debut coming up that's a real weepy, it is a weepy, and the author won't mind me saying it's weepy, through to kind of gangland drama, which is set in Ireland, which is just I'm not even going to get into that, but it is obviously not too far off sort of it's not Peaky Blinders obviously, because it's a bit more serious than that, but through to fantastic kind of wartime sagas and family stories and romantic comedies and all sorts of things. So I'm just your BBC One ITV. So if you think that your book is the sort of thing that is going to be primetime television, then please send it to me. I am not your kind of Radio 4 book of the week. It's not I'm in the mass market, and that's my sort of taste, and that's where I'm sitting.
Okay, good. So it is November 2022. Am I right in thinking you are open to submissions?
Yes, we are at the moment. We are. We do tend to close occasionally. So keep an eye on the website. It really, it does just depend on the volume of submissions coming in.
Yeah.
Whether we try and stay open, as much as we can.
Yes. And are there, specifically for you as an agent, are there any genres or styles that you're really on the lookout to be adding to your list?
No, sorry. No, I just want a great voice and a great story and something that I haven't heard before, which is, so it's a bit like clothes shopping. You just think, until I've gone around all the shops, I won't know what it is until I see it. I think if you're, when you're a newer agent, it's a lot easier actually, because you can think, well, I've got loads of sort of, detective novels and things going, so I really could do with something a bit more this, that, or the other, just to sort of balance your list, so you've got a nice variety of things going on, and obviously you've got your ears to the ground, you're talking to editors all the time, you're trying to figure out what's the next big trend, but I think I'm in a very fortunate position of having a very full client list, and so I'm just looking for that absolutely great voice, and it would be fantastic if it is something that I've just not seen before. But even if it is something that I have seen before, great. It's all about the character. It's all about the voice for me.
Yeah. And at the agency, is your client list the most full? You're sort of in that position of you have a very full client list, so you are looking for these gems. The rest of the team, are they more kind of in the growing their list phase?
Yeah, so we're exactly. So I think, and this is probably why it's enormously helpful that we have kind of team meetings, because it might, very, very talented submission might come forward, but it might well be a writer who's writing something that's in the same space as one of my existing authors. So to have other team members who could then perhaps take a look at that, because as I say, otherwise I'd have to turn it down. We can't, when you're an agent, you can't have authors competing with each other on your list. Like you have to represent that, your author's best interest at all times. You cannot be sitting there thinking, oh, I've got to kind of, prioritize one of, two authors that are very, very similar. I don't think any agent ever wants to be in that situation. So, I think that's that's where the sort of team approach can be really helpful. And when you've just you've got less authors that you're representing, it just means you've got more space.
Yes, yeah, of course. Well, that's really great. That's great to know for everyone else, well, who's thinking about submitting, but is worried that they might submit to you, and then you might not have a space on your list for that, but then you could potentially pass it to someone else on the team.
Yes, yeah, and that happens quite a lot certainly at my agency and at other agencies. So no sort of agent that's sound of mind wants to pass on very promising talent when they see it. So
yeah, of course,
they very, very commonly will share with colleagues.
Yeah. So before we get to the final question, I always it's always interesting with agents and you mentioned that you obviously got your start in this industry by being an aspiring writer. Do you ever hope to get back to your own writing?
I probably, when I retire, I'd like to do something. Yes, but I think part of the thing with being a writer is headspace. So I know when I was writing my novels, I was writing them fairly constantly. So I might be sitting there doing the ironing, and I'm thinking about my novel and kind of playing out the scenes in my head that I'm going to go and write and that kind of thing. And I say I can't write when I'm an agent. I haven't really written anything. Apart from the odd, article and something like that. I call that my creative writing, go and write an article for something.
Okay.
Because I haven't got the headspace, because I'm always thinking about somebody else's novel, and and kind of how that's all working. So I don't have the headspace to do it. But when I do have the headspace, yes, it would be something I would get back to.
Yes. And funny question, would you, if you did publish again, would you publish under Kate Nash?
No idea.
I only asked because there's another Kate Nash that people might have heard of.
Yeah, interestingly enough. So if you're trying to get hold of me, just put Kate Nash Literary Agent into Google, and it's all there on the social media.
Don't just Google Kate Nash.
Well, obviously do get occasional emails from people looking to book, they put in Kate Nash Agent and they're looking to book Kate Nash for a gig or something. And really interestingly, because it doesn't happen that often, but at the Frankfurt book fair this year, I turn up at the hotel to check in, and the lady behind reception's kind of looking at me and sort of saying, "Oh, Kate Nash, we've put you in the suite." And I was like, "You what?" And she genuinely thought I was the pop star.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know why she still thought that when she was looking at me in reception, but it was a very nice suite and a very excellent, very nice hotel. So sort of thank you very much. I mean, they didn't take it away from me again when they
amazing.
found out, so.
Well, that worked out well for you, didn't it?
It did, yeah. There's got to be some benefits of being confused.
Amazing. Well, that brings us on to the final question, which, as always, is, Kate, if you were stranded on a desert island with a single book, which book would you take?
I think this is a very, very mean question.
Yes.
Books are not singular things. This always sounds. I think when you're listening to Desert Island Discs and people say, "Oh, I'd take the complete works of Shakespeare" or something, you just think, "Oh, how boring is that?" But you know what? I would actually take the Bible with me, and I'll tell you why. It's because I've never really read it cover to cover, and my old English teacher for A level once said, "If you want to understand literature, you have to have read the Bible." And I know full well that I've gone in and I've read lots and lots of bits over the years, and but I just think you would have all that time. And it's either going to be that or War and Peace. You really have the time to kind of do it justice. So I think I just would be, I'm afraid, a bit boring and take the Bible with me and just force myself to kind of read it from the beginning, right the way to the end.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I've actually heard a similar thing before. People have said to me, like, religion aside, however you feel about it, like, it's a very interesting book to read cover to cover. And there's a lot of lessons and sort of interesting styles within it.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got, there's obviously, the bits that I have read, you've got whatever sort of everything from sort of poetry, but I think it's probably just the obscurity, it is in different styles, there's different things going on. I think it would give me plenty of things to think about.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously so ingrained in so much of modern culture as well.
Exactly. And I'm sure I would sort of get to bits and I think, I didn't even know that came from the Bible, just something that we've absorbed in our culture that, you weren't even aware.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for coming on the podcast and telling us all about your work and sharing your experiences. And obviously, congratulations again on being nominated for the Agent of the Year Award.
Thank you very much. It was great to be here.
And for anyone listening, if you want to keep up with what Kate is doing, you can follow her on socials at Kate Nash Agent. And as always, if you are looking to submit to Kate or anyone else at the agency, head over to the website katenashlit.co.uk and make sure you read up on all of the submission guidelines before you fire off that email. To make sure you don't miss an episode of this podcast, follow us on Twitter at Right and Wrong UK or on Instagram and TikTok at Right and Wrong Podcast. Thanks again to Kate and thanks to everyone listening. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Now for a limited time, the new $1.99 crispy tender wraps are here at Sonic. Who could deny a crispy chicken tender with bold flavors like hickory barbecue and cheesy Baja? And we can't forget the crisp lettuce and melty cheese to make the perfect bite. Wrap yourself up with some TLC, tender, love, and chicken for only $1.99. Sonic $1.99 crispy tender wraps. Tax not included, limited time only at participating Sonic drive-ins.
If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all, listen up. CarShield has a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that covers more parts than ever. Visit carshield.com/audio to find out how you could pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Get your free quote today at carshield.com/audio. That's carshield.com/audio.
Spin your passion into a business with Shopify and break sales records with the world's best converting checkout. Let's hear that one more time. The world's best converting checkout. Shopify's legendary checkout makes it easier for customers to shop on your website, across social media, and everywhere in between. Now that's music to your ears. Any way you spin it, you can be a smash hit with Shopify. Start your $1 a month trial today at shopify.com/records.